Every year my photography shifts a little, not because I buy more gear, but because the way I see the street changes. Over time I've realized something important. Lenses don't just affect what fits inside the frame, they influence the kind of stories we notice. In 2026 I'm not chasing the sharpest glass or the most impressive specs. I'm choosing lenses that make me want to go outside, walk longer and shoot more. These are the budget lenses I will be using with my Fuji cameras in 2026, not because they are perfect on paper, but because they fit the way I actually photograph the world. I shoot with Fuji APS-C cameras, which means that every focal length is multiplied by 1.5 to take on account the crop factor. So a 23mm focal length is becoming roughly 35, while a 50mm becomes a 75. For me, at the moment, the range from 23mm to 75 covers almost everything I care about, from wide storytelling and layered street scenes to portraits and tight cinematic moments. So instead of owning many prime and zoom lenses that overlap, I prefer a small intentional lineup that I know deeply. And in this video, I'm going to share everything about it with you. At the wider end of my kit, I've been using two very similar lenses this past year, the TTArtisan 23mm f1.8 and the Viltrox 25mm f1.7. The TTArtisan surprised me with its fast autofocus, solid metallic build and image quality that really stood out, especially during my highlights and shadows photo walk in London, which ended up being one of my favorite shoots of the year. The Viltrox on the other side feels almost invisible when you use it. It's light, balanced and consistently delivers clean, sharp images without drawing attention to itself. These lenses are close enough that you can't really go wrong with either. But if I had to choose only one to use in 2026, this would probably be the Viltrox. The slightly sharper edges, discreet build and overall consistency make it a lens I always reach for when I want to just go out, observe and capture wider scenes. The 35mm focal length, aka 50mm on APS-C, is where versatility and tighter frames enter the conversation. On one side, the Fuji 35mm f1.4, a true classic with character and soul. Shooting with it feels special, and its rendering has a life to it that it's very hard to quantify. But it's also loud, slow to focus, and it lacks weather sealing. On the other side, I have the Sirui Aurora f1.4, which offers weather sealing, modern features and solid image quality in a robust build. It's heavier, a lot bigger and far less romantic, but it's far more practical. If I shoot street photography on a bright day, I would very often lean towards the Fuji. But if I'm taking portraits or generally shooting in the rain, which I genuinely enjoy, the Sirui makes a lot more sense. And if I could own only one 35mm lens, this would probably be the Sirui, simply because real life includes bad weather conditions. When it comes to the 50mm focal length, aka 75mm on an APS-C, there is no debate for me. The Fuji 50mm f2 is one of my most trusted lenses and one I keep going back to. It's small, weather-sealed, fast to focus and incredibly reliable. I use it for street photography, portraits and general photography that don't need exaggeration. For me, some lenses don't really have competition, and this is one of them. It may not be flashy, it's quite small, it doesn't have a lot of features, but it's always there when I need to deliver fantastic shots unconditionally. And that's all I care about. If you are enjoying this video so far, hit the like button and consider subscribing with the bell. At 56mm, aka the 85mm equivalent, although not very far away from the 50mm that we discussed earlier, I spent a lot of time with the Viltrox 56mm f1.7 and the Sirui Sniper 56mm f1.2 in 2025. The Viltrox immediately stood out to me. It's compact, light, beautifully built and produces image quality that I genuinely love. Especially the way it renders color, texture and subject separation. It works beautifully for portraits, but it also feels very natural for street photography. The Sirui Sniper is a capable lens with strong image quality and decent autofocus, but it's big and heavy and less practical for how I move through the streets. Between the two, I would probably choose the Viltrox because it fits my shooting style better and it encourages me to go out and shoot more. At the long end of my kit, I've been using the TTArtisan 75mm f2 and the Viltrox 75mm f1.2. The TTArtisan is impressively small for a 75mm lens. It is beautifully built in metal and it delivers image quality that genuinely surprised me. It's fantastic for portraits and cinematic photography, and it does all of that in a very accessible price. The Viltrox, on the other hand, feels more like a serious professional lens. Big, heavy, weather-sealed and optically excellent. If I was shooting professionally in harsh conditions, I would probably just use the Viltrox. But for my personal street work, the TTArtisan actually wins. Its size, its character and its value make it a lens that I actually enjoy carrying and using very often. Even though I feel very comfortable with this lineup, it isn't complete, and I think this is very important to say. Right now I don't have a 24 or 28mm equivalent lens in my Fuji setup, and this is a gap I am actually very aware of. I used to own the 24mm equivalent Fuji 16mm f2.8, but this lens is no longer in my kit, which means that I am actively thinking about this wider end of my kit again. Those focal lengths I believe are wide enough to tell environmental stories, but natural enough to keep things grounded and believable. I'm actually planning to fill that space because I can feel my photography slowly moving to more complex compositions with more layers and depth. I am also missing something on the longer end of the spectrum. Beyond the 110mm equivalent, there are moments where more compression, distance and isolation could open up new creative possibilities. I don't know exactly which lens will fill that role yet, and I'm comfortable with that. Leaving space in your kit means leaving space for you to grow, and I would rather let my photography guide the decision than rush into another purchase. What I've learned over the years is that budget lenses do not necessarily mean compromise. For me, they mean intention. The lenses I will be using in 2026 aren't the most expensive or the most technically perfect, but they shoot the way I shoot, the places I walk, and the conditions I work in. I care about size, character, reliability, and whether a lens makes me want to go outside and look more carefully. Because in the end, the best lens isn't the sharpest one, but the one that gets you out of the door even when it's raining. If I had to strip everything back and choose just one lens from this entire lineup, this would be the Fuji 50mm f2. Not because it's the most exciting, but because it's the most honest. It works in almost any situation, almost any weather, but it never distracts me from the story. It's small, weather-sealed and mentally frictionless, which means I spend less time thinking about gear and more time paying attention to what is happening in front of me. So if I could take only one lens in 2026, this would be it. What about you? What is your favorite lens that will follow you in 2026? Let me know down in the comments. Also, if you have any suggestions for my kit, I will be very interested to see them down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, the hype button, subscribe with the bell, or become a member to support the work behind these films. Now, if you want to see how my relationship with focal lengths has changed over time, click and watch this video next. That was all for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I will see you on the streets. Bye bye.